whisper tales of fortune, ghost towns round another bend. Tanks half empty, but I'm rolling, chasing dreams I'll never know. In this hard land, I've been searching for a place to call my own.
Pinebox, Texas, the place where we're talking about. Pinebox, Texas is with no relation to a certain very popular television show. Yeah. All right, my very first problem with this is Texas. None of these kids have a gun. All right, so we're looking at Pinebox Middle School from our good friends at Pinnacle for Savage Worlds. This is obviously their take on the kids on bikes versus supernatural trend. I read some reviews about it. It apparently got some pretty decent reviews. There was like, 8-10 games based upon this genre after Stranger Things got really popular. So we'll see how they do the Stranger Things. Pinebox, Texas is a real place. It's not like Fresno, Nevada. It is located in, where does it say? Newhorn County, and 10 population, Big Thicket. It's the country seat of Golan County and the home of East Texas University. So go fighting, whatever. Yeah. All right. So it's a real place. All right. Let's take a look at Pinebox, Texas. Remember, this is not a review. Because what can I say about Savage Worlds I haven't already said 100 times? It should not work, but it does, and it's amazing. This is just a first look. This is just us walking to a game store. We see it on the shelf. We're curious. We open it up, and then we're like, oh, this looks cool. I might want to play this, or this looks dumb. So the initial attraction to this, of course, is, hey, kids on bikes fighting Lovecraftian monsters in Texas. What could be more weird than that? So let's take a look. Texas has got its own whole weird thing going on, and then you add in the whole kids on bikes versus supernatural, and yeah, okay, and they're riding their bikes and they're fighting Lovecraftian. Okay, so we got the credits, we got the syllabus, we got the different adventure types and rules and stuff. It's made up like this. You are enlightened adolescents between 11 and 14 who are enrolled in Pinebox Middle School. For most of the kids, your greatest threats are everyday school stuff. But for your characters, you've, for some reason, discovered that there some weirdness going on. And for whatever weirdness, you have chosen to investigate this weirdness instead of, I don't know, informing the authorities. Or it's, as in Tales from the Loop, they explain it that adults just can't pierce the veil, you know? So adults aren't aware of this, and if you try and point it out to them, they just get angry. So what? We got all the modern problems that a modern kid has to deal with in Pinebox, Texas, plus spookums. And for some reason, you have decided to deal with it because apparently you feel you're the most competent, or whatever the supernatural has thrown you into this situation. So like it. We got some information on the Pinebox Middle School and what Pinebox, Texas is about. Pinebox, Texas, home of the East Texas University, average size, 30,000. Mosquitoes, wasps, hornets, fire ants, spiders, and snakes. Pretty much empties out during the summer. It's got some pizza parlor. Got a barbecue, hamburger places. It's got a small rodeo that comes through. And then for some reason, there's some spookiness going on. Is there spookiness going on in all of Texas or just this one town? And why this one town? What about the kittens? We got, and I guess here's one of our example characters with his pet dog. How to talk like Texas. Kid-friendly Texas phraseology. A few pickles short of a barrel. All gurgle, no guts. All swole up. Always dream upstream of the herd. Bless your heart. Okay. Couldn't write a nightmare without falling out of bed. That's some good ones. We got some. So this is interesting. We got some words. We got the character archetypes. Character archetypes are animal lover, athlete, budding scientist, country kid. That's all of you. Crafter, delinquent, first aid kit, fine art kid, gamer, yeah, geek, same thing. Ghost hunter. A lot of kid ghost hunters out there in Texas. Really? Is that a thing in Pinebox, Texas? I wonder if anybody from Pinebox, Texas is actually listening to this now. Are you? Yeah. Oh, we're doing this live because the algorithm says I need to do more live. The green thumb, the kid entrepreneur, the medium, the new kid, the ranger scout, the smart kid, the trendy kid. Okay, smart kid, geek, and gamer are pretty much the same thing. I mean, you could be a smart kid and not be a geek, I suppose, but and then we got the trendy kid, like, oh my god, the clout chaser, the Bethany. Then we got the making of characters. Well, your species, you're human. Kids, age, you're a kid. Attributes, it's Savage Worlds, so you have the D4, D6, D8 thingy. You have D4 in each stat, and then you have 3 additional attribute points to increase them. So because you're a kid, you don't have as many points as whatever an adult would in Savage Worlds. So all your attributes are capped. All your skills is capped for being a kid that age in that type of world. And then we have all your edges and stuff like that. But again, they're a little limited because, again, you're a kid. So there's a lot of edges you wouldn't have as opposed to, say, normal Savage Worlds or whatever where there's more. But, you know, you're a kid. How many edges are you going to have access to? And then gear, you know, you got to think about what would a kid have and go to in this situation besides the obvious baseball bat and flashlight. You know, so with the kid thing, you got to think like kid. I love kid. Always placing my brain in that situation where, like, okay, what would I do if I was a goblin and I walked into a kitchen? What was I would do if I was a 12-year-old kid and I had to deal with this? What would I grab? What do I logically have access to? And what could I get away with because I'm a kid that adults might not be able to get with? Then we got all the hindrances. We've got we got an annoying sibling as a weakness. We got that's fun. We got something called the danged effects table. Things just never seem to go right for this kid. Perhaps it's due to a family curse. Oh my god, it's me. And then both the dice rolls and the cards you can use. New disabilities for kids. New edges for the kids. They definitely put a lot of thought into taking the things and making them kids-centric, right? Like, I don't care how much of a geek you are. No real kid is walking around with the little teeny lenses on their glasses, because most of those things would be on your cell phone. You'd have an app that does that. So we've got our edges, our little special abilities, our weird edges, stuff like that. All the stuff we're used to. This is Ember. She's the delinquent. We got information on building your family, because that's very important. We got a family who, for some reason, doesn't help you. We got siblings who, for some reason, don't help you. We've got a little bit of a life path. We got some information on allowance and gear and gadgets, and what kind of gadgets you would have access to again at that age. What would you have access to? What wouldn't you have access to? What would you adapt? And more importantly, what could you get away with? You know, because again, I'm a kid. There's stuff I can get away with as a kid that I can't get away with as an adult. So some common gear, firearms. There we go. Pinebox Middle School is set in Texas, a state where many get exposure to firearms at a young age. This is a game of wits and ingenuity more than fireball. This is not to say the heroes aren't incapable of using guns, but it should be extremely rare, as it will ruin the kid detective nature of the setting. Remember that to this day, and age, even in Texas, a middle schooler caught with a firearm in any circumstances other than hunting or target practice is subject to immediate intense intervention because they don't want you to go all, school shooter. But still, you have access to guns. You live in Texas. So this would definitely be the kind of situation where somebody go, well, let's just go get my gun and shoot it. But of course, that ruins the whole. You have to give in to the surrender to the rules of the genre, because reality says I would go get a gun. All right, there's a spook killing kids in the cafeteria. Okay, let's just shoot it. It's just a guy. It's just a serial killer. But the tropes of the genre say no guns. We got some kits, like the detective kit, ghost hunting kit, some personal defense, some weapons you might take, baseball bat, golf club, shovel, sharpened stake, some rage weapons, CO2 weapons, fireworks. Rule for Nerf in here. That's pretty fun. Airsoft, Nerf, foam guns, holy water, cell phones. They have some stuff on rules and cell phones. But they don't have any apps. I'm writing up a section on cell phones and apps for my superhero role-playing game right now, because I would assume that there would be a lot of apps designed for supers, or a lot of apps that exist that a super could use, We got getting around, buses and ride sharing, rules for bikes, vehicles, rollerblades, hoverboard, skateboard, scooter, bicycle, soapbox derby car, wheelchair. Ooh, excuse me. Got some fireworks. Rules for clubhouses / space of operations, and the advantages and disadvantages the treehouse gives you. Not a lot of art. I'm not sure if I like that or don't like that. We got some random encounter table. We got an example clubhouse. We got an example group of kids to mess with. We got the rules for the setting, kid tropes. Take a dare, trespass, believe everything you read or see, refuse to share, toys as weapons, arguing at the worst possible times, cry, get mad, or pout, shortcuts, always be looking at your phone, be a kid. Remember to be a kid. And because once you become an adult, you don't see the world anymore, I guess, That's how Tales from the Loop explored it. Once you pass that last summer of childhood and start going to high school and start worrying about high school problems, and then later on college problems, and later on adult problems, that 6 through 12, you're still immersed in the world of wonder, and that allows you to see the terrors that are in the world of wonder. But once that puberty starts rolling through, and you start worrying about things like popularity and tests, it just sort of starts to fade away. Go all the way back to Narnia, and talk about Narnia and the kids who didn't grow up, and poor Susan. I think, sidebar, Susan got fucked. I think it was totally unfair that Susan didn't get to go back to Narnia because she chose to grow up. And put on stockings. Kiss a boy. So here we got stuff for the different ages and the seasons, and of course I even mentioned the summer here, that last great summer of childhood where everything is still popular, everything is still spooky, magic is scary, black magic, the McAllister Maxman. Referring to the plucky main character of the Home Alone movies, this rule helps ensures our young heroes don't inevitably become murderers or end up dead themselves, provided that they are living, breathing students, and that there are people out there like teachers and cops and stuff like that. You all suffer non-lethal damage. Unless the player or principal intends to inflict lethal damage at the time, Their attacks, even attacks that would normally be fatal, only succeed in rendering the target incapacitated. You obviously did not watch the second Home Alone film. Kevin McAllister is a murderer. You know, the whole theory that Kevin McAllister grew up to be the character from Saw. So stuff, just rules on, you know, how kid damage, okay, schoolyard rules and bullying and rumors and stuff like that. So they've really covered the whole school thing pretty good, decent. I definitely feel like we could go. Oh, I've got comments. Hello. Howdy, folks. Have a great week. Have a great weekend, everyone. You too, Shadow and Sun. You have a great weekend. All right, so we got negative, positive reactions. So a whole section on school and gossiping connections. Here's our map of Pinebox. It is apparently pretty close to home. I wonder if these guys actually lived in Pinebox at some point in time. Scott Woodard, Preston DeBow, and Ed Whitman. Did you actually live in Pinebox, or did you just, you know, blink that town? Doesn't say. Where were we? All right, here's our guide to Pinebox. Or, you know, yeah, thank you for telling us all about the imaginary town, which is a real town. Now, this is the place where I could, you know, as somebody who made up a town in a real place, there's always the possibility that you get the town wrong if you don't really do the research, and you could inevitably upset someone, you know. When I was talking to the Ely, Nevada Chamber of Commerce, and, you know, talking about using Ely as because yes, I actually did speak to the Chamber of Commerce before I created Fresno, Nevada, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't pissing off anybody. And the 3 steps of difference, and, you know, the trouble with using a real place is the same as the trouble of using a well-known setting like Middle Earth. People know what's there. And so if you try to change things around, people become argumentative. The McDonald's is not on 5th Street, dude. I live there, kind of stuff. So, yeah, hopefully they either are from Pinebox or know somebody from Pinebox, went to Pinebox to do the research, you know, like the people who made the Cars movie actually went to places all along Route 66 when they were researching Pinebox. Or you reached out to the Pinebox Chamber of Commerce. I saw no mention of it, but hopefully you did do your homework, because we are talking about a real place. And somebody might get upset if you blow up their office in the game. You're like, hey, I blew up Daniel Ibarra's office yesterday. We got the staff of the school, the schedule of the school, some of the NPCs, public transportation in the school, class schedule, the principal's office, information on the town and the surrounding towns. If anybody is from any of these towns, we've got Avalon Acres, Blackburn, Canary Flats, Cavellis, Kruger Village, McCormick's Ferry, Morganville, New Nineveh, Timberland Village, and Walls. None of those sound familiar to me, but they are all real towns in Texas. The natural features of Texas, in that part of Texas, the state of interest in Texas, Route 66, and all the other stuff. Some of the strangeness you might encounter in small Texas towns, or any small town. Small towns tend to generate weirdness. It's just a thing, man, you know. Even this small town I live in now, which is by no means a small town anymore, but when I first moved here to Site B, it's still a small town, and yeah, weird stuff happens. And, you know, once you get out to the desert or the plains or that whole Old West, you're more likely to have weird things happen. So we've got some phenomenon for them to investigate, well-known or otherwise. Weather, wards, and magic, and stuff like that. Magic in the supernatural. Magic versus technology. why people are casting spells in Pinebox. What is it about Pinebox that makes people, evil cults want to go there, or demons want to descend on that town? Why is this town special? Got some more random tables. Building the stuff. It's got some new spooky powers for anybody who gets some spooky powers in the game, as well as referencing all the spooky powers that are in Savage Worlds proper. You do have to have a copy of the Savage Worlds rules to play this. So there's the magic system with a little bit of a Deadlands. Is Pinebox in Deadlands? Maybe it's the grown-up 2005 version of the town from when it was in a Deadlands town, and that's why there's weird stuff going on. Or just the fact that, Texas is full of weird ghost stories and tons of stuff. Huge, bloody histories, of course. And we got some adventure generators. Nice. And normal kids fighting the supernatural. I like the setup. Maybe get a little bit more art. Especially if you're looking at somebody's notebook. We could see a little bit more doodles and stuff like that. How to use the cards, how to use the dice, an example adventure. What it's like to be at school at Pinebox. Some more sample adventures. Look at this guy. I'm a monster. Look at this little brain eater. It's just more information on the school, some more example adventures. That looks frightening. It's a lot of special, a lot of sample adventures. Here's one called Spies Like Us, where you deal with maybe an escape robot. So not all the weirdness is supernatural. Texas is, home of Houston and home of Austin. Both are huge technological hubs of vast technological advancements. It goes without saying, some of that technology would, spread out to the smaller towns, especially as the smaller towns close up because everybody's leaving, and just sort of dry up. So sure, a robot that escapes Houston and works its way down to Pinebox because it thinks whatever. I'm just spitballing here based upon what I see. Another robot, more supernatural stuff, but this one isn't supernatural. This is technological. Hey, we're experimenting on kids because that never happens. So a lot of example adventures and just samples and oh, hello. She looks frightening. Yeah, so they definitely have done their quote unquote homework and done a lot of work. And no, come on, not the doggo. Building and exploring. Oh, he cut his own head off and put it into the robot because of course he did. See, baseball bat. Demon rising out of the ground. Robot. Combining both magic and technology. The never-ending question, who wins in a fight, magic or technology? I think if technology wins the initiative, technology probably wins because I just shoot the wizard. Though Buffy would argue that magic always wins. Then we have some more examples. So this is all examples and world building and a lot of stuff. That whole section we just went through about the environmental strangeness, and then the adventure generator, and then we got some characters and critters. There's a ghost. There's a rock. There's a ghost of a rock. Rock goes. Rock goes. There's Pockets the dog. There's them being chased by a minotaur. Could use a little bit more art. Eye monster. Yeah, wouldn't have been that hard to find actual pictures of Pinebox, Texas. In fact, I'm sure I could find some without really trying. No, they only have pictures of the game. It's a real place. Pinebox. Pictures of the game. I'd like to see some pictures of the real place. It's a real place. But we can do East Texas University. There we go. Okay, so there are pictures of the place. I'm sure there's a Pinebox, Texas Chamber of Commerce. But it looks like this game is their biggest claim to fame because there's a lot of links to this game. So congratulations getting chosen to be the home of this game. It seems to be the huge win for public relations for Pinebox, Texas. Is there okay, so we're still going through the example adventure. Hulk stomp. Totally not the Hulk. I'm totally not the Hulk. You're the Hulk. No, I'm not. Werewolf. This kid's just looking out the window. Oh, finally, somebody's got the gun. This kid's like, guys, my parents are going to be here any minute. Here's them fighting a weird cowboy ghost. There's some suggested monsters and suggested NPCs. Could use some more art. You know what I'm not seeing is any cryptids. Where's Bigfoot? Where? Oh, well, there's Chupacabra. Okay, at least they had mentioned our good friend Chupacabra. Ghoul. Do we have the Tommyknockers? Goatman. Clown. Lukshaza. Minotaur. Skunk Ape? Skunk Ape is Florida. I don't think Skunk Ape is Texas. Texas Soup Snake. Were Coyote. Texas Demons. Ghosts of the Civil War. Inspirations. All right, so there we go. At 200 some odd pages, we have the Pinebox, Texas Middle School. If there is an explanation why they chose Pinebox, I missed it. Why did you choose Pinebox? Yeah, it doesn't say. Hey, Pinnacle, if anybody out there is listening to the sound of my voice, why Pinebox? What is it about this town of the hundreds of towns in Texas that I'm sure all have their own history of ghosts and weirdness and barbecues and other Texas appropriate supernatural cryptid type stuff. Why this town? The town that would get you in the least trouble for using it? I mean, there's no mention of the Pinebox Chamber of Commerce. So I can't say with any certainty whether they actually reached out. I'm assuming they did some homework, but can't say with foreshadow doubt. But obviously there's definitely a lot of work done here in gathering information. I don't know how accurate it is, but hey, it's probably the single best injection of public relations this town has ever had, because 90% of the links that I found so far are about this product. All right. So in closing, for Savage Worlds, Kids on Bikes versus Stranger Things, set in Texas. So we have all sorts of stuff that a lot of us love. We've got the whole Old West Texas American mythos. We've got the whole small town last summer of childhood, embracing the weird and knowing that this is the last year you can see beyond the veil and see both the good and the bad. And we've got kids placed in outrageously horrific situations because for whatever reasons the kids feel they're the most qualified, as opposed to, say, the National Guard. And then, we just have to ignore the fact that that makes no sense, because that's the trope. That's the genre. That's the stuff. And, we explain it as the kids can see it because they're still kids and they still believe. When you stop seeing it is because you're transitioning to adulthood and you're worrying about adult things. It goes all the way back to why Susan couldn't return to Narnia, which again was fucked. Susan should have been able to go back. And there you go. So, of all the ripoffs of Stranger Things that we have seen, does this one do the best? Because it's got all the ingredients. And if we're comparing it to Stranger Things, we're comparing it to Kids on Bikes, we're comparing it to Paper Girls, we're comparing it, of course, to Tales from the Loop, because, that's my go-to. I would have liked to seen some more art. I would have liked to seen some more why Pinebox. And having a rule where there's no consequences, the Kevin McAllister rule, where you can do all these things, but there's no consequences because nobody really dies. They just get knocked out. I mean, sure, it is kids, and it is the trope of many of these shows that nothing really bad happens to the kids unless it's important to the plot. Kid investigators, Scooby-Doo, nothing bad ever happens to the kids in Scooby-Doo. Nobody ever just goes, you know what? Why am I dressing like a pirate ghost? Why don't I just shoot these kids? I'm a criminal. I've got $10,000 in gold bullion sitting here, and I'm dressing up like a ghost. Why am I doing this? I'm just going to shoot them. But no, the trope says this is the choice you make. And I like that there was both supernatural stuff and modern day stuff, and acknowledging the actual cryptids and the actual mythology of small Southwest, Midwest towns. I think we could have gone into the whole, idea of a dying town. Everybody's leaving the small towns. Towns like Pinebox are just shutting down all across America, right? But all Pinebox has going for it is East Texas, and some more interaction with East Texas. But it's Savage Worlds, which is a system I really like, which makes me curious. It's a lot of things I like from modern day stuff. I do love the whole Dandelion Wine, last summer of childhood, Tales from the Loop feel, having grown up in the 80s in, Southern California, and actually experiencing the whole last childhood of summer that fed so many of these other things. So depending upon the price, if I thought I could, if I thought there was an audience for it, I would definitely be interested in playing it. And I'd maybe buy it if I knew I was going to run it. But this is a hard genre to get people to want to play. nobody really wants to play kids, you know, and nobody really wants to play 9 out of 10 times in the genre where they're that few things in their favor. When I tried to get people to play Tales from the Loop, they're all like, no, that's dumb. And then finally, of course, why don't they just shoot them? This is Texas. You have access to guns. But they do mention, of course, well, anybody seeing a kid walking around with a rifle is probably going to be a little, hey, we don't want a whole nother thingy happening, right? So at least they talk about that. So I think they did a pretty good job combining real world with fictional world, which is always dangerous, because if you set anything that's in a real place, in the real world, where potential members of your audience might actually be from, that's always potentially could lead to things. Somebody might take offense. Somebody might call you out and go, you got that wrong. Somebody might sue you for misrepresenting their town. I chose to make up a make-up town. A lot of people who do games like this choose to make up fantastic towns instead of setting it in a real town. If you do set it in a real town, you should reach out to the various organizations that are designed to help people, because most of these towns have historical societies. Almost all these towns have chamber of commerces and other offices like that, whose whole job is to help advertise their town. And if you reached out and said, I'm writing a book or a video game about your town, they might be very helpful. They might send you stuff. I see no mention of that, but still, I definitely say this is fun. And I love the amount of research, so I would definitely say I am definitely interested in this. So there you go. Remember, these aren't reviews. These are just first looks. Just us walking into a game store together, looking at the new game on the shelf, flipping through the pages, asking questions of the game, seeing if the game can answer those questions, and then deciding whether it's something we want to buy or not. If in the past 37 minutes I have convinced you that this game is worth your hard-earned monies, there's a link down below that you can use to go to drive-thru and get yourself a copy of this game. It's my affiliate link, so not only do you get yourself a copy of this, but I get a small percentage of the purchase, so it's win-win for all of us. If you're feeling like a little generous and you appreciate the work I'm putting out every day, why don't you check out my Patreon or my Ko-Fi, or buy yourself some Only Crits dice. I am an Only Crits affiliate, and they are the only dice in the tabletop role-playing game community, approved and tested by Steve the Cat. And of course, the best way to support me is to head on over to drive-thru and pick up one or both of my products. But as always, if for whatever reason you can't support me that way, then all I can ask for you is, in exchange for all the work I do, is like, share, subscribe, and have a good day. You know, just have a good day. Feel good about yourself. Spread some kindness. And, if it's you're a student at Pinebox, Texas Middle School, maybe you should convince your parents to move to a town that isn't infested with supernatural monsters. I don't know. Just seems like a thing. Till next time.